On May 20th, 1999, a 29-year-old woman's heart stopped beating. Her core body temperature plummeted to 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit. For context, your body is supposed to be 98.6. Her blood was barely moving. Her pupils were fixed and dilated. By every clinical definition available, Anna Bågenholm was dead. She stayed that way for over 3 hours. And then she wasn't. She woke up. She recovered. She went back to work as a doctor. This is the story of how one tiny, forgettable decision on an otherwise ordinary afternoon triggered a chain of events that would rewrite what medicine thought it knew about death itself. And it all started because Anna wanted to take a different trail. Anna Bågenholm was a Swedish surgical trainee working at a hospital in Narvik, a small city in northern Norway, well above the Arctic Circle. She was smart, driven, the kind of person who spent long hours studying and then unwound the only way that made sense in that part of the world, skiing. May 20th was a day off, and Anna headed into the mountains with 2 colleagues, Marie Falkenberg and Torvind Nasheim. They were experienced skiers, all 3 of them. They knew the terrain. But that afternoon, Anna chose to take an off-piste route, a path she'd skied before, one that ran along a frozen stream called the Prestbacken. It was late in the season, the snow was patchy, the ice on the stream was thinner than it would have been in deep winter, but it still looked solid enough. That calculation, that glance at the ice, that casual decision to go left instead of right was the first domino. Anna was skiing down the slope above the stream when she lost an edge. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a spectacular crash. She simply slid head-first down toward the frozen waterway and hit the ice at an angle her body couldn't correct. The surface broke. She plunged through, head-first, into the stream beneath. The water was just above freezing. Her upper body was submerged, pinned under the ice sheet by the current, while her legs and skis remained above the surface. Marie and Torvind were right behind her. They reached her within seconds. They grabbed her boots, her legs, and they pulled. She didn't move. The current had her, and the ice around the opening was too thick and solid to break away easily. They pulled harder. Nothing. Anna was stuck. Now here's where a second small detail became enormous. Beneath the ice, Anna found something. An air pocket, a thin layer of trapped air between the surface of the rushing water and the underside of the frozen sheet. She pressed her face into it and breathed. That pocket, maybe a few inches deep, maybe formed by nothing more than the way the stream had frozen unevenly weeks earlier, kept her conscious. It kept her aware. She could hear Marie and Torvind above her, struggling, shouting. She called out to them, she told them she was alive, and for a while she was. But the cold was doing its work. Water that cold strips heat from a human body 25 times faster than air. Anna's core temperature was dropping fast, a degree or 2 every few minutes. Her muscles began to lock. Her calls became quieter. After about 40 minutes under the ice, her heart stopped. The air pocket was still there, but it no longer mattered. Anna Bågenholm's circulatory system had shut down. Marie had called for rescue almost immediately. A helicopter team was dispatched from Tromsø, about 60 miles away. But the terrain was brutal and landing near the stream wasn't simple. It took time. Meanwhile, Marie and Torvind kept trying to free Anna, kept talking to her even after she stopped responding. When the rescue team finally arrived, they had been at it for over an hour. It took another 20 minutes and a combination of ropes, tools, and raw effort to pull Anna's body from under the ice. She had been submerged for approximately 80 minutes. She was not breathing. She had no heartbeat. Her body was rigid, her skin was white. She was, by any reasonable assessment, a corpse. But one of the rescuers, and this is the third domino in the chain, knew a principle that most people outside of emergency medicine have never heard. The principle goes like this. Nobody is dead until they are warm and dead. In hypothermia cases, you do not declare death until the patient has been fully rewarmed and still shows no signs of life. Cold changes everything. Cold rewrites the rules. And so instead of calling time of death on that mountainside, they loaded Anna into the helicopter and flew her to Tromsø University Hospital, where a team of over 100 doctors, nurses, and technicians had been alerted and were waiting. When Anna arrived at the hospital, her core temperature was measured at 13.7 degrees Celsius, 56.7 Fahrenheit. It remains one of the lowest body temperatures ever recorded in an accidental hypothermia survivor. Her blood was dark and thick, barely fluid. Her heart had been stopped for well over 2 hours at that point. The team connected her to a cardiopulmonary bypass machine, a heart-lung machine normally used during open-heart surgery. This device drew blood out of Anna's body, warmed it by a fraction of a degree, oxygenated it, and pumped it back in. Over and over, slowly, degree by degree. It took hours. The entire time, there was no guarantee any of it would work. The team was operating on faith in a physiological theory, not on precedent. Nobody had come back from a temperature this low. And then, after roughly 3 hours of bypass warming, Anna's heart began to fibrillate. It was chaotic, uncoordinated electrical activity, not a real heartbeat, but it was something. It was biology responding. They defibrillated her, and her heart started. A rhythm appeared on the monitor, weak, unsteady, but real. Anna Bågenholm was, against every odd, alive again. So why didn't Anna's brain die? When your heart stops at normal body temperature, your brain begins to suffer irreversible damage within 4 to 6 minutes. Anna's heart was stopped for over 3 hours. She should have had catastrophic, total brain death. Here's the science. As her body temperature dropped in that freezing stream, her metabolism slowed dramatically. Every degree of cooling reduced her cells' demand for oxygen by roughly 6 to 7%. By the time her heart stopped, her brain was barely consuming any oxygen at all. It had entered a kind of biological standby mode. The cold didn't kill her. The cold preserved her. It put her organs on ice, almost literally, before the damage of oxygen deprivation could set in. The critical detail, and doctors have emphasized this ever since, is the sequence. Anna got cold before her heart stopped. If her heart had stopped first, at a normal temperature, and then she'd gotten cold, the outcome would have been entirely different. The cooling had to come first. It had to slow the metabolism before the blood supply cut off. That sequence is what separated survival from death, and it was pure accident. This case became a landmark in emergency medicine. It helped solidify the use of therapeutic hypothermia, the deliberate cooling of patients after cardiac arrest or during certain surgeries to protect the brain and organs. Hospitals around the world now use controlled cooling protocols that owe a direct intellectual debt to what happened to Anna in that frozen Norwegian stream. Anna's recovery was long and painful. She woke up paralyzed from the neck down. Nerve damage from the cold had ravaged her extremities. For weeks, she couldn't move her arms or legs. Doctors weren't sure how much function she'd regain, but slowly, over months of rehabilitation, she began to recover. Sensation returned. Movement returned. She regained the ability to walk, to use her hands, to live independently. She was left with some residual nerve damage in her hands and feet, a lasting reminder of those 80 minutes under the ice. But here's the part that still stops people cold. If you'll forgive the expression, Anna Bågenholm went back to medicine. She became a radiologist, and she took a position at Tromsø University Hospital, the same hospital that brought her back from the dead. She worked in the building where her heart was restarted. She walked the same hallways that her lifeless body had been wheeled through on a gurney. Every day she went to work was a quiet, defiant answer to the mountain that tried to take her. There's something about this story that goes beyond the medicine. A woman chooses a ski trail. She hits a patch of ice. An air pocket exists where it might not have. A rescuer remembers a rule about cold. A machine does something it was never originally designed to do. Each link in that chain was fragile. Any one of them breaks, and Anna Bågenholm is a footnote, a sad story told briefly at a medical conference. Instead, she's proof of something unsettling and beautiful, that the line between life and death is thinner and stranger than we want to believe, and that sometimes survival comes down to a sequence of small, improbable things falling in exactly the right order. We like to think we understand death. Anna's story suggests we barely understand life. If stories like this one are the kind of thing that stays with you, the kind that makes you look at the world a little differently on your drive home or your walk to work, then this channel is where you'll keep finding them. Subscribing is the simplest way to make sure the next one reaches you. I'll see you in the next video.